All right, just taking a quick look at this new Dabbsson Turbo 12,000. This is an interesting product if you're looking for something that's going to be capable of powering your entire house and do it kind of in a small, compact, well, it's relatively small and compact and technically portable. I mean, we'll talk about that more a little bit later, but yeah, these are big time specs. A lot of power, a lot of solar capability, which of course is what you're going to need to sustain power. And it's just a nice, fairly compact, it's a nice looking unit. And this really isn't too much of a surprise coming from Dabbsson, who's been making like really solid power stations for several years now. And it's kind of interesting that they actually don't get mentioned nearly as much as the top brands do. So yeah, it's weird that it's not on a lot of people's radar, but maybe, after watching this video, maybe they will be on your radar. So kind of the first thing to talk about here is your different setup options. And really when they talk about this Turbo 12,000, they're talking about one of the master units and one battery. So they actually kind of consider that like the base model. Okay, the base, the smallest version of this product line that you can have. And it's kind of interesting because there are a few images where they show just using the master unit. So, maybe you can do that. Maybe you can do that, and maybe they just limit the output power and limit the charging capability. Or maybe you can't do that, and whoever put those images together didn't know what they were doing. So, because when I see this, when they call this kind of the base setup, meaning you got to have two things connected together, the master unit and one battery, that will give you all of the specs that they list here. So, and by the way, the master unit does have its own battery, so that's why it is kind of confusing. Like you would think you'd be able to use that by itself. And maybe you can, but you're just not going to get the performance out of it unless you hook up at least one extra battery. And that will give you ready for this? 6,000 watts, and that's 120 volts. Okay? In 12,000 watts, 240. So, this is no joke. This is no joke. And by the way, every individual unit has the internal battery is a little over 5 kilowatt hours. So this base setup is 10.65 kilowatt hours. Now you can expand this thing in total. Kind of the biggest setup you could have with this thing is 42 kilowatt hours. And you can really only hook up 3 extra batteries to each master unit. But then of course you can hook up 2 masters in parallel. And that's how you're going to get the 42 kilowatt hours. And of course, when you hook up 2 of them in parallel, you also double the output, right? So if that wasn't enough for you, how about 12,000 watts at 120 or 24,000 watts at 240? I mean, if that can't power your house, you might want to look at getting some more efficient appliances or something, right? The whole point of this is to save you money actually long term. Of course, it's great not to worry about power outages and stuff like that as well. And of course, the other, component here is that would really make this system work for you, especially long term, is the ability to feed a lot of solar into this thing. And this thing does have that ability. So yes, there's high voltage and low voltage inputs. There's actually 2 low voltage inputs. So now they say a total of 2,400 watts. But these are 60 volt inputs, 25 amps. And so I guess it's like split, right? I mean, it's probably 1,200 watts in each input. And so that's pretty good on its own. But you're not going to be hooking up a large solar array to those low voltage inputs, are you? You need something with higher voltage. And yes, they do have it. Up to 450 volts and 11,000 watts going into this thing. So actually the base setup here is capable of doing more than a 1C rate off of solar. So, and of course, if you had 2 master units, you can double this, right? So, yeah, if you had the full setup at the 42 kilowatt hours, you could actually do 22,000 watts of solar. And now there's also the, can you combine the low voltage and the high voltage? I don't know. They don't mention that. Even if you couldn't, I think even if you couldn't, these specs are good enough, aren't they? I mean, you could definitely use this. And there is, in fact, for the high voltage solar, there is a physical switch on the unit as well. So for connecting and disconnecting purposes. And so if you're thinking, this kind of looks like exactly what I've been looking for. And I do like that it is somewhat compact and somewhat portable. Yeah, as you see, there's kind of this like cart that the base setup will fit on. They do have like this wheeled tray setup if you want to go with more than one extra battery. But it's gonna be quite heavy, right? I mean, this is primarily, it's gonna be a stationary setup. I mean, yes, maybe you can roll the base setup around because it is kind of like a nice metal cart with some big wheels on it. But over here, then they mentioned using a crane, like a full-size construction crane to lift this thing. So that kind of gives you an idea of the weights we're talking about here, right? It's not light. So what are we talking about? Well, the base setup, the 10.65 kilowatt hours, with the cart, maybe it is with the cart, 170 pounds. So now, of course, with this kind of being a modular system, where you have the cart and then actually the master unit and the battery, even if you did have to lift this thing, you could disassemble it, right? At least to those 3 parts. I mean, sure, the master unit with over 5 kilowatt hours in the inverter of this size in there is got to be what? 100 of the 170 pounds. Maybe that's probably somewhere in that ballpark, right? So just plan on having to lift that much. But, if you wanted to lift the whole setup, I guess, hey, and you do have a crane, hey, I guess you could do that. And then, some other things to mention here. This is the whole home power backup system was what they're calling this. So there's no 12 volts, okay? There's no DC. This is not even really, something you would use in like an RV, right? This is overkill. This really is for your house. So it's AC and solar and the ability to expand up to 42 kilowatt hours. That's what it is. It's a home backup system. So there's no DC, there's no 12 volts, there's no USB. You're hooking this up to like a transfer switch in your house, right? I mean, this is the power of your whole house. So in a way that kind of makes sense. If you want DC capability, yeah, as I mentioned, Dabbsson has plenty of other smaller power stations that will do that for you. And of course, give you, a more portable setup as well. But if you're looking for this, you're looking for something this size, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that. Would you want to have DC on a system like this? I don't know. And then lastly, just to talk about the design of this thing, it looks great. At least this base setup with the metal cart. It's got a very industrial look to it, right? It's a high quality, robust build. The cart looks metal, and even the power station, I'm not sure, but the silver end caps look metal or aluminum or something, right? And they've even got some nice exposed screws in there. And of course, all of the ports do have covers on them. The ones on the back as well are covered. And the rear wheels have this like airless, tubeless design, right? I mean, you started to see some of these, where it's like the rubber actually has like little spokes in it to kind of, so there's some compliance with the wheel, and it's not just, it'll absorb some of the impacts and bumps, right? But there's no, there's no tube, so there's no, you're not worried about the tire ever going flat, right? So just kind of, it looks like you really could drag this thing along, even a fairly rough surface, right? And it's going to handle it.